Hello everyone, hope you are doing good. In this video, I will explain about what is Spring Container, what are the responsibilities of Spring Container, how many types of containers there in Spring, early loading and lazy loading in Spring, difference between Bean Factory container and application context container. So let's get started. What is Spring Container? These are the most important interview questions. What is Spring Container? Spring Container will do. Spring Container will do here A, creating objects, creating objects, providing data to objects, providing data to objects. Third point, link one object with another object, link one object with another object. Finally, destroy objects. Finally, destroy the objects. Finally, destroy the objects. What is Spring Container? Spring Container will do creating objects, providing data to objects, link one object with another object, finally destroy the objects. Or we can also say like, the Spring Container, will create the objects, wire them together, configure them and manage their complete life cycle from creation till destruction. See here, what is Spring Container? Spring Container will do creating objects, providing data to objects, link one object with another object, finally destroy the objects. Or we can also call like the Spring Container will create the objects, word them together, configure them, and manage their complete life cycle from creation till destruction. So second question is, what are responsibilities of Spring Container? These are the most important interview questions. What are responsibilities of Spring Container? Here, first point, find and scan spring beans. Second point, create objects for the beans that it found after scanning. Third point, link or inject objects if they have some relations such as as a is in inheritance as a relationships are there, right? In Springboard, we can use auto avoid annotation to use it for the as a relationships. Link or inject objects if they have some relations such as a. Fourth point, finally destroy the objects. So see here, what are responsibilities of Spring Container? Find and scan Spring Beans, create objects for the bean that if found after scanning, link or inject objects if they have some relations such as a, finally destroy the objects. Third question I will add Spring Bean. What is Spring Bean? So what is Spring Bean? Third question is, what is Spring Bean? Copy this question. Control C. These are the most important interview questions. Here, see here, we are learning about what is Spring container. After that, what are responsibilities of Spring container? Next, third question is what is Spring Bean? So, what is Spring Bean? Here, answer the the Java class, the Java class whose the Java class whose here the Java class object is created and managed by managed by managed by here the Java class object is created and managed by Spring container is called Spring Bean is called Spring Bean. What is Spring Bean? The Java class whose object is whose object is created and managed by Spring container is called Spring Bean. Here, what is Spring Bean? The Java class whose object is created and managed by Spring container is called Spring Bean. So, next question. How many types of containers there in Spring container? Spring, how many types of containers there in Spring? These are the most important interview questions. Here, how many types of containers there in Spring? So, two are there. They are two. They are two. One is bean factory container. Second one is application context container. Here, bean factory container, application context container. Application context container. There are how many types of containers there in Spring? They are two: bean factory container, application context container. So next question: difference between bean factory and application context containers. Bean factory container and application context container. Control C. Here. Difference between bean factory container and application context container. Here we are missing another question. Eager loading and lazy loading. Control C. So what is eager loading and what is lazy loading? This is most important interview question. So here answer early loading when Spring application started when Spring application started or when Spring application started when Spring application started it will create objects. It will create objects. If yeah, early loading, lazy loading, lazy loading. When Spring application started, when Spring application, when Spring application started, it will not, it will not create objects. Objects. It will wait until post request. Until post request. It will wait until post request. It wait until post request. Yeah, here. Early loading and lazy loading in Spring. Early loading, when Spring application started, it will create objects. Lazy loading, when Spring application started, it will not create objects. It will wait until post request. So next question: difference between bean factory container and application context container. These are the most important interview questions. Before going to interview, must prepare these are. For this, I will take one table with two. These are the column one, column two, two columns. Here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I will add another 6. So difference between bean factory container and application context container. So bean factory container, it is old container, old container, it is old container. Application context container, it is new container, new container. So first point, it supports lazy loading. What is lazy loading? When Spring application started, it will not create objects here. What is lazy loading? Yeah, it is called lazy loading, right? When Spring application started, it will not create objects. It will wait until post request. It will wait until post request. This is the one answer. I will give you another answer. Here, it means container will not create objects of configured closure classes immediately. It waits till it receives the post request. It will wait till it will receive the post request. Here, it supports lazy loading. It means container will not create objects of configured POJO classes immediately, right? It will not create objects for configured POJO classes immediately. It will wait. It receives post request. It will wait. Still, it will receive the post request. So copy. We can also R. We can also call it as. So we can call it as this way as well. Here it supports early loading. It supports early loading. Yeah, it supports early loading. That means it means without receiving any request from client program immediately it will it will create object for every singleton scoped class here. It supports early loading. It means without receiving any request from client program immediately it will create object or it will create object for every singleton scoped class, Control C. Yeah, when Spring application started, it will create object. Or we can also say like R. Yeah, we can also say like it means without receiving any request from client program immediately it will create object for every singleton scoped class. Here, early loading and lazy loading in Spring. Early loading, when application started, it will create objects. Or it means without receiving any request from client program, immediately it will create object for every singleton scoped class. Lazy loading. When Spring application started, it will not create objects, or it will wait until post request. Here, or it means container will not create objects of configured Pojo classes immediately. It waits till it receives the post request. So I will add another question. What is Pojo class? Here I will add another question. What is Pojo class? What is Pojo class? So here, what is Pojo class? What is Pojo class? Answer is what is Pojo class? Pojo abbreviation is plain world Java object. Just plain world Java object. It is a normal Java class. Example, yeah, example class A is a Pojo class. Plain world Java object is a Pojo class. So coming to next point, post bean factory container and application context container differences we are discussing. Bean factory is the old container. Application context is a new container. It supports lazy loading. It supports LA loading. Lazy loading means it means container will not create objects for configured Pojo classes immediately. It will wait. It receives the first request. It supports LA loading. It means without receiving any request from client program immediately, it will create object for every singleton scoped class. So next point is does not support for properties file and placeholders. Does not does not support for does not support for does not support for properties file and placeholders placeholders holders directly does not support does not support for properties file and placeholders directly. What is placeholder? See here, placeholder is nothing but dollar symbol. Here we are passing key, right? Here we are passing key. It is a placeholder. We are passing some key, right? This placeholder. Second point. Here, second point. It supports. Here it supports. It supports for properties file and it supports properties file and it supports for properties file and placeholders. Placeholders. Placeholder in placeholder is look like here dollar symbol. So P. We need to pass here T directly. Directly. Next third point. Third point is here directly. It does not support for does not support for internalization. Internalization nothing but I18N. I18N. I18 nothing but I 8 letters dash 10 plus count 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 10 11 12 13 14 internalization. So let's hear internalization. Here internationalization. Nationalization. Let's count 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 10 11 12 13 14 15 16 17 18 18. These are the 18 I18N. So does not support for internalization. Here third point. Here third point. Here supports for internalization. Here it supports for internalization. It supports for internalization. Fourth point. Fourth point is does not support for event handling and listeners. Does not does not support for event handling and listeners does not support for event handling and listeners. Here listeners here it supports it it supports it supports for event handling and listeners. Fifth point is fifth point here allows allows only XML allows only XML file as the Spring Bean configuration configuration file. Here fifth point allows XML file as the Spring Bean configuration file and Spring Bean configuration file and also supports for 100% code driven approach and springboard configurations springboard configurations. Here allows XML file as the Spring Bean configuration file and also supports for 100% code driven approach and springboard configurations. Springboard configurations. 6 point is this container this container cannot be stopped or closed. 6 point. Here 6 point. This container can be stopped or closed or refreshed refreshed etc. we can do next etc. So these are the main differences. Some more other also there, but I am not including. So I am not including all differences not required. When if interviewer asks, you can explain about these 6 differences. So just review all once before I will change the size of this content. So let's change to 18 and Calibra. Here in this video, so I am explained about these questions. What is Spring container? What are responsibilities of Spring container? What is Spring Bean? How many types of container there in Spring? What is early loading and yes, what is early loading and lazy loading in Spring? Difference between Bean factory container and application context container. What is POSO class? First question, what is Spring container? Spring container, here what is Spring container? Spring container will do creating objects, providing data to objects, link one object with another object, finally destroy the objects. Or we can also say like the Spring container will create the objects, wait them together, configure them, and manage their complete life cycle from creation to destruction. So this is the first question. Second question, what are responsibilities of Spring container? Find and scan Spring beans, creating objects for the beans that if found after scanning, link inject objects if they have some relations such as a, finally destroy the objects. Third point, what is Spring Bean? The Java class whose object is created and managed by Spring container is called Spring Bean. What is Spring Bean? The Java class whose object is created and managed by Spring container is called Spring Bean. So next question, how many types of containers there in Spring? There are 2 types of containers are there, Bean factory container and application context container. So what is early loading and lazy loading in Spring? Early loading when application started, it will create objects, or we can say it means without receiving any request from client program, immediately it will create object for every singleton scoped class. What is lazy loading? When Spring application started, it will not create objects. It will wait. It will wait until post request. Or it means container will not create objects for objects of configured POJO classes. Here it means container will not create objects for configured POJO classes immediately. It waits till it receives the post request. So then we can learn about what is POJO class. Here, what is POJO class? POJO abbreviation is POJO. 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 POJO means plain old Java object. It is a normal Java class. Example here. Just class. Here look like class. Open parenthesis, closed parenthesis. Is got class, right? Plain normal class. Next, difference between bean factory container and application context container. This is most important. Bean factory container, old container, application context container, new container. It supports lazy loading. It supports early loading. It means container will not create objects for configured POJO classes immediately. It waits till it receives the first request. It means without receiving any request from client program, immediately it will create object for every singleton scoped class. Singleton nothing but at any situation it will create only one object for every class. It does not support for properties file and placeholders. By using placeholders, we can read properties file keys, right? Key by using key we can read values. It supports for properties file and placeholders. Key here, this is the placeholder syntax directly. So it supports for properties file, and we can also use placeholders. Properties file slash YAML file. YAML file is also supported, right? Spring Boot YAML file. So next, does not support for internalization. Application context is supported for properties file and YAML files as well. Does not support for internalization. Internalization is what languages, different types of languages, it will not support it. It supports for internalization. Application context is supported for internalization. Does not support for event handling and listeners. Bean factor does not support for event handling and listeners. It supports for event handling and listeners. Here, this application content is supported for event handling and listeners. Allows only XML file as Spring Bean configuration file. Here allows XML file as Spring Bean configuration file and also supports for 100% code-driven approach and Springboard configuration. Springboard configuration here allows XML file as Spring Bean configuration file and also supports for 100% code-driven approach and Springboard configurations. This container cannot be stopped or closed. This container can be stopped or closed or repressed. Yeah, repressed. Thank you for watching. For more videos, please subscribe to this YouTube channel.